Ladies and gentlemen, if I could just call for your attention. I'm delighted now to be joined by Craig Boundy from Experian. Craig is the Managing Director for UK and Ireland, and also to Mark Moorman, who is Director for Customer Advocacy at SAS for their worldwide headquarters. So I must just say that Craig has mentioned that he's got to leap out of this room and go and catch a flight to LA. So he's not going to be able to stick around afterwards, but he's got a number of his team here. So please catch any of them to have a chat about Experian, but he really does have to go. Craig.
Leslie, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. I'm delighted to be here, and pleased so many of you made it despite the terrible or at least fun weather that we've been having. And it's really interesting, great opportunity to be here to talk about part of your ongoing effort to tackle fraud, error and debt. These are testing times for the public sector. Catherine put those great slides up at the beginning that made it very clear. They're testing times for all of us, with resources squeezed, inflation stretching budgets even further, and financial stress hitting households and businesses alike. There are enormous opportunities for quick wins and immediate, measurable return on investment in terms of savings, as well as streamlining operations, stepping up to the switch to digital and sharpening the frontline delivery of services. It's a fight we've already taken straight to the fraudsters and recalcitrant debtors. I'll outline the how, the where, and what we're doing, along with some of the superb results. We believe that the more you know about your citizens, the better decisions you'll be able to make on their behalf, and ultimately drive our society towards a point where information ensures your interaction with citizens are trusted. We believe that the more you know about them, the more successful you can be. Experian's been working with the private sector for the past 40 years to hone data matching, validation, and anti-fraud techniques. We're currently helping decision makers in businesses and governments in more than 60 countries across the globe. In the UK public sector, we're already working with central departments and local authorities alike to help them run more efficient services. But we're just scratching the surface, and there are enormous opportunities to develop best practice even further. Our work is underpinned by a vast set of data and access to a unique combination of socio-demographic data. That's industry data, proprietary data, and public data from across more than 1 billion records and 800 separate data sources. Big numbers, huh? But the real skill is in accurately and effectively linking individuals to the numerous data sources and making sense of this in the context in which it's being applied. We have the skills to take data, analyze it, compare it, match it to our own, and create insight to underpin your critical decisions, whether they're complex financial spreadsheets or a simple 3-level recommendation appearing on a caseworker's PC. All this is delivered in absolute security, at a scale, and in ways that safeguard the privacy of citizens. Experian's public sector practice was created 30 years ago and now has several hundred staff dedicated to supporting you, from central departments to most local authorities, as well as every police force and most primary and secondary care trusts in the country. What we're not is bounty hunters, and we've been sometimes referred to that. To be clear, we're simply not interested in going on unsolicited fishing trips through an individual's personal information. We must be looking for a specific problem, for a specific client or group of clients. Usually, we have the individual's consent to what we're doing. And when not or always within the law and regulations that govern our regulation of our operation, this is absolutely key to us. We're here to help you prioritise cases, recover debt, and develop differentiated strategies. The public sector is an area of huge importance to us. Its influence on shaping society, protecting the vulnerable, and supporting those who often need the most help. Simply, this can't be overstated, and it's an area where we have a social responsibility and duty to continue investing. Our insight has always helped highlight a host of quick wins, from debt management, collections, council tax, expenditure and validation. But we think we're now at a timely point to move decisively away from the traditional culture of pay now, check later. We also know from private sector experience that it's far easier and more losses are avoided if fraud and error are addressed up front. For debt management, it's pretty straightforward, and we'll be talking about this in more detail during the forthcoming workshops later today. Successful management and recovery of debt rests on an ability to apply an approach which is appropriate to the individual circumstances of the debtor. In particular, it's important to distinguish those in genuine need from those who have the ability, if not the willingness, to pay. It's also important to communicate in a way most likely to influence appropriate repayment behaviour. In short, it's simply the accurate identification or validation of debtor contract details and understanding their unique circumstances. Will they pay? Won't they pay? Could they pay? Are they bankrupt, deceased, vulnerable, criminals, or seeking legal representation? At the same time, staying on top of continually changing circumstances and applying accurate segmentation, cost-effective communication and interaction is critical to recovering funds. For example, 1 in 7 of us move home every year. More change their jobs, switch bank accounts, phone numbers and emails. We're all living in an accelerated culture, and the rate of change is quickening. In the private sector, debt management has been transformed over the past 15 years from independent, silo-based operations, such as credit card business, to specialist, centralised functions that support consumers across multiple business lines, with shared data, IT capability, and specialist operational resource. Sound familiar? Central to this is the ability to treat customers fairly and to distinguish to a very high degree of accuracy an individual's circumstances and their ability to pay. These are the same individuals that owe money to the government. For private sector organisations, the payback has been significant. We've seen a 20% increase in cash recovered, a 15% improvement in bad debt, a 15% reduction in outstanding debt, an improvement in productivity of 70%, and a 30% reduction in recovery costs. Turning to preventing and directing fraud, we're already saving banks and financial institutions more than £1 billion every year. But we actually think the opportunity in the public sector is even greater, and that's an area we'll discuss further when we get to the fraud sessions later today. Underlying this is the need to get serious about the way information on fraudsters is shared amongst those they target. Fraudsters will always go for the easy targets. Clamping down on fraud in one area in isolation simply displaces it. And if you're not moving information on fraudulent activity around, you'll always be vulnerable to attack from those who are able to exploit that weakness. Let me give you a topical example. It happens to be taken from the world of social housing, but the principles apply equally to any part of the public sector. No one knows the true extent of social housing fraud, but everyone agrees it's a serious problem. The absence of data exchange between providers of social homes by both local authorities and housing associations means that serial fraudsters with multiple tenancies in many different areas go undetected. Current government estimates, based on Experian's analysis of 30 providers covering 250,000 homes, indicates that at least 160,000 social homes are sublet unlawfully in the UK. Aside from the financial waste, this has a significant human cost on those families and individuals who are in genuine need of support and yet who have to live in temporary accommodation. However, the true scale of this fraud is certainly much higher, as this estimate does not include fraudsters that have obtained multiple tenancies in more than one borough or housing association. Given our knowledge of emerging trends in the private sector, we're absolutely certain that fraudsters are operating across local authority and housing association boundaries, and they have a host of tools at their disposal, be it fake identities, stolen IDs, or use of third-party mules. We can very quickly apply the same tools and technology developed in the private sector to the public sector to flush out fraud and error. We can trace those citizens making multiple claims across different parts of government, analysing consistencies in their means statements, including income, employment status, undisclosed partners, and multiple tenancy claims made from multiple addresses. Crucially, we can also prevent fraudsters from simply switching their focus from one government target to another. The widespread scale of the challenge presents a priceless opportunity to get to grips with this very significant issue. In the fight against social housing fraud, we're leading the way with a nationwide data sharing and data matching initiative to help all local authorities in the UK get to grips with this serious issue. But this is just the first area we're looking to apply these techniques. In line with the NFA's strategy of creating industry hubs, we're also looking to address fraud in other areas of the public sector, for example, grant fraud. In other sectors, we already lead the way in creating tightly controlled, compliant systems that enable collaboration, corroboration, and cross-checking. The collective know-how and the collective will is there. We just need to apply it. Experian is also unique among commercial suppliers as a specified anti-fraud organisation, which under the Serious Crime Act allows us to facilitate lawful data exchanges between the public and private sector. Consider benefits, collections, and council tax. There's absolutely no doubt fraudsters are constantly on the lookout for opportunities in these areas. We look at a short and snappy three-stage process to manage fraud levels and win an immediate return on investment. First, a sweep of the entire system to identify where fraud is most likely to be taking place, allowing investigation resources to be tightly targeted. Second, follow it up with a regular scan to ensure changes in the circumstance of benefit claimants are immediately picked up, rather than at an annual review. We also scrutinise financial associations between individuals to help identify suspected fraud networks and rings. Finally, the establishment of a mechanism for checking new claims to reduce the risk of fraud and error entering your systems from the outset. Right now, we're implementing the groundbreaking Operation Amber Hill data onto our systems to enable our clients to immediately see when false, inaccurate, or tampered identity documents are used for applications for credit or benefits. These processes are already commonplace in commerce and industry. They're unobtrusive and easily deployable. Take public sector expenditure. Declaring all areas of significant spend immediately creates an opportunity to analyse procurement in detail. From our experience working with local authorities, we estimate immediate savings could be made through preventing duplicate payments created by multiple invoices, negotiating volume-based discounts that currently aren't visible by grouping spend with a single supplier across multiple public sector organisations and procurement systems. Adoption of the process will pave the way for the public sector to plan with confidence and appropriately rationalise delivery infrastructures. Finally, what about error? The line between fraud and error is often blurred. Where error refers to error on the part of a citizen, such as forgetting that their circumstances have changed and that this will affect their entitlements, we can certainly help. Using the data assets we have access to, we can highlight where a person's personal circumstances have changed, for example, where a new partner moves in. We have been offering this across a number of benefit services for a while, such as single-person discounts and housing benefits. However, we recently moved this to a new level with work we're doing with both HMRC and DWP. I hope these thoughts today will prompt some ideas about how Data Insight might help your organisations. But I want to leave you with a further suggestion. A lot of attention has been given to seeing off the fraudster and making debtors pay up. This is entirely right. But fundamentally, we want to ensure that you, along with all our clients, can continue to be compliant, respond appropriately and proportionally to citizens. Applying these techniques will always help identify the genuinely needy and most vulnerable in our society and continue to enable you to serve them in the quickest and most effective ways possible. Thank you very much for your time today. I hope the rest of the conference goes very well.